In October 1962, the world held its breath for 13 days as the United States and the Soviet Union tethered on the brink of nuclear war. This is a story of the Cuban Missile Crisis, a dramatic confrontation that nearly ended in catastrophe. The Cold War era was marked by intense rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. Following World War II, both superpowers engaged in a tense standoff, each vying for global dominance and nuclear supremacy. In 1959, Fidel Castro's revolution brought communism to Cuba, just 90 miles from the U.S. coastline. This shifted and created a significant strategic threat to the U.S., as the Soviet Union saw opportunity to extend its influence in the Western Hemisphere. In October 1962, a U-2 spy plane captured images of Soviet ballistic missile installations under construction in Cuba. These medium-range and intermediate-range missiles had potential to strike major cities in the United States with nuclear warheads. President John F. Kennedy was briefed on the discovery, and the gravity of the situation became clear. The Soviet Union, under Premier Nikita Khrushchev, had placed offensive nuclear weapons within striking range of the U.S.
It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union. I call upon Chairman Khrushchev to halt and eliminate this clandestine, reckless, and provocative threat to world peace and to stable relations between our two nations.
Kennedy's response was swift and decisive. He announced a naval blockade of Cuba, termed a quarantine, to prevent further Soviet shipments of military equipment. The world watched as U.S. naval forces encircled Cuba, and Soviet ships approached the blockade line. For 13 days, the tension escalated. Khrushchev and Kennedy exchanged messages, each side wary of making the first move that could lead to nuclear war. The crisis brought the world closer to nuclear conflict than ever before. Behind the scenes, frantic diplomatic negotiations took place. Both superpowers understood the catastrophic consequences of nuclear war and sought out a way to resolve the crisis without losing a face. The turning point came through secret negotiations. On October 27th, Attorney General Robert Kennedy met the Soviet ambassador anatoly Dobrynin. They reached a crucial agreement. The U.S. could secretly move its Jupiter missiles from Turkey in exchange of the removal of Soviet missiles from Cuba. The next day, Khrushchev announced that the Soviet Union would dismantle its missile installations in Cuba. They would return their missiles to the Soviet Union. Under UN supervision, the intermediate threat of nuclear war was averted.
We have also agreed to a number of measures to halt the arms race, to stabilize and strengthen the world community, and to reduce the dangers of military conflict. JFK couldn't find a video.
The Cuban Missile Crisis had a profound impact on the United States and Soviet relations. It led the establishment of the direct hotline between Washington and Moscow, ensuring better communication to prevent further crisis. It also paved the way for a series of arms control agreements, including the nuclear test ban in 1963. While the intermediate crisis was resolved, the Cuban Missile Crisis remains a sobering reminder of how close the world came to nuclear annihilation. It highlighted the importance of diplomacy, communication, and the need for nuclear disarmament. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a defining moment in the Cold War, one that demonstrated both fragility and resilience in international relations. It's a story of brinkmanship, courage, and enduring quest of peace in nuclear age.